What's up? So, Andor episode 6. Now this is the finale of the 3-episode arc where Andor is helping some rebellion soldiers break into an Imperial base, and this episode was a lot more entertaining than the last two of this arc, considering the last two were just preparing for this episode where they do actually break into the Imperial base. But this one was very entertaining, very action-packed. We finally get some action in this, apart from just talking. But I've got to say, this series so far has been very well written, and I'm actually really enjoying the performances of each character, especially Stellan Skarsgård, who plays Luthen. I mean, his performance keeps getting better as the show goes on and on. You can see he's getting right into the character. To be fair, he was already 100% comfortable in his character during episode 1. His first appearance, honestly. And I just want to say that the supporting cast around Andor on their mission are just doing a great job also. I mean, all the acting in this show is amazing. The dialogue is great. One thing is still lacking. It doesn't feel like Star Wars really. The lack of aliens is my biggest problem. I mean, it's really not hard to make some of these characters aliens. I can see many of the characters that we've seen so far with an alien head on, and they'd be perfectly fine, and it would still be fitting. But nevertheless, this was a really good episode. The heist. Now, this has one of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in Star Wars, with loads of missiles flying overhead. I didn't actually know why or what the missiles were doing. I must have missed that part when I was watching it, where they describe where the missiles are going, but either way, that was a beautiful shot. The missiles are obviously going to blow up some part of the planet, or another planet or whatever, but either way, when they were flying through the missiles, they were like fireworks. It was just beautiful. So I just can't give the show enough praise for that section of the episode, because we've been leading up to this episode for so long now, like 2 long episodes. Well, I wouldn't say long episodes, but they feel long considering the slow pacing. But yeah, we've been preparing for this episode for so long, and I think they did pretty well with it, you know. It was very entertaining and it was beautiful. So props to them. This arc, I'd say, was better than the last one, considering we didn't have that angry ex-boyfriend who wanted to get back at Andor, which is just nothing we need to see. They did not need to waste screen time on that character in the first 3 episodes, but they did anyway. You know, the first 3 episodes were just kind of bringing in new characters, you know, introducing us to the new characters. But now this arc, we actually get to see the story develop, but it was entertaining nevertheless. And just so you guys know why I'm calling it an arc, is because the director or the writers came out and said that the first 3 episodes are an arc, then the next 3 episodes, and the next 3 episodes, and the next 3 episodes after that. So each 3 episodes is a full arc of the show. So that's what I'm judging the show by. And then I'll do, of course, an overall view of the show at the end when it's all out. But yeah, I'd say this arc is definitely better than the last. You know, we've got the characters that we're really interested in now. Even the side characters are entertaining for the most part. And yeah, just an all-around great episode, great visuals. Hopefully the show gets a lot better after this. But this review is coming out after I've seen episode 7, and I've seen 7 already. So let's get into that now. Alright, so episode 7. Now I just want to start this one off by saying how great the actress of Mon Mothma is. I mean, she's done a fantastic job in all her scenes. I mean, she's been carrying her scenes, to be honest. Like, every scene she's been in, apart from the ones with Skarsgård, have been based around her and solely around her. I mean, she's got her own arc going on, and it's been really good and really interesting. But then again, that's tied with the fact that we get to see Coruscant being lived in and expanded upon, apart from when we got to see that in Clone Wars. You know, in live action, it hits totally different. Just seeing the day-to-day life in Coruscant is just beautiful to see. I mean, how many of us have wanted that? Just to stroll around Coruscant. I mean, it's a beautiful place. You know, it's basically like the New York of the Star Wars universe, if you think about it that way. It just looks way better, 10 times better. But then again, the one problem comes in where we don't see enough aliens. Coruscant has a lot of aliens. I mean, all different types of species, like many other planets. But this Coruscant place is where loads of people come to make money, you know, try to get rich, all of that. You know, there's the broke parts at the bottom, you know, the lower parts, the slums, if you will, deeper underground. And then on the top, there's all the rich people, some of the richest people in the galaxy. But no matter what part of Coruscant we're talking about, there's aliens on every level, and we hardly get to see any aliens. It's all humans in this show, which is my biggest problem. I'm sick of seeing human faces. This is Star Wars. Where are the aliens? It's making it not feel like Star Wars at all. Now, if you've seen any of my reviews from the previous episodes, you know by now that this show, in my opinion, just does not feel like Star Wars to me. This is my main problem. It does have little glimpses of Star Wars in there when I'm like, alright, this is definitely in the same world as Anakin, Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. I mean, I'm not saying I need to see lightsabers in it. I'm just saying the world needs to feel like Star Wars. They need to pay 100% attention to detail and really get it right for once, please Disney. Apart from, you know, Mando, Clone Wars, which was Dave Filoni, and Rogue One. you know, because the spin-off that this show spun off of was probably the best live action thing that Disney has dropped to do with Star Wars. So I just wish they'd keep it so close to how Star Wars meant to be, you know, bring in the aliens, bring in the Force. I want to hear about the Force in all the Star Wars I do. I'm sorry. You might feel different, even if they're not Force users. I need to hear them talk about the Force, you know, even if they don't believe in it, just like Han didn't. You know, I need to hear them mention it in some way. I just wanted to say that because that's how I feel about the show mainly. But back to episode 7, you know, diving deep into what happens. Andor has got his money from the heist now. He's took off to do his own thing. You know, he went back to his parents, well, his adoptive mother, and he tried to take her to another place, you know, off planet, to get away from the Empire, as they've taken over his hometown. And she doesn't want to leave, you know, she wants to fight against the Empire. She's been running for too long. So this guy just, I guess, goes off to a beach planet. Now, it's not Scarif from Rogue One, but it is another beach planet where many rich people go on holiday, I guess, you know, people with a lot of money. And of course, he gets captured for no reason, for looking suspicious and just being around the wrong people at the wrong time. Gets arrested and gets sentenced to prison, which doesn't make any sense. I guess the judge is just horrible, just sees people she don't like and just bang, go to prison, basically. But yeah, that's overall what really happens in episode 7, you know, apart from the little things, like he woke up with a woman in his bed, I guess, you know, he was taking a shower. We got to see Mon Mothma have very detailed and interesting chats with other political people in her home in Coruscant. And honestly, her scenes are probably the most interesting scenes in the show, and Skarsgård as well. Andor's doing his thing, but overall, Mon Mothma's story is so much closer to the main story, you know, where she's really trying to start this rebellion. She's in Coruscant, the place we love to see and we just don't get enough of. But yeah, her scenes are just amazing. I think the show will pick up more, you know, they're just starting off this new arc, so they're just speaking about things, you know, starting plot lines, letting us in on the information we need to know before diving in deep into the actual storyline of this arc. But you know, overall, this show is getting more interesting in my opinion. I'm enjoying it a lot more and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I want to see where this arc goes. Of course, the last arc is most likely going to be the most entertaining one. We might get to see some huge cameos, but we'll have to see. To be honest, I like this show a lot more than I did at the start. If you saw my last reviews, you know, I weren't really the happiest about it, and I'm still not the happiest about it, you know. It still has the same problems, it's just getting better and more interesting. But overall, it's a very well written show. If it was a normal show without the Star Wars name, then it would be a very good show in my opinion. But it's just because it has Star Wars on it, it has to feel a certain way. It has to feel like Star Wars. Star Wars has a certain feel, and it just doesn't have that at the moment. But overall, it's getting better. So what do you think about it? Put it down below. Alright, so Andor episode 7. Now, this episode felt like a filler to me. I mean, nothing really happened in it. Before this episode, I thought the show was getting a lot better. But after this episode, I mean, damn, was this boring. This was so boring. And every episode just had the same sets, the same scenes. I mean, how many times is Mon Mothma gonna have a party in her house? I mean, she seems to always just be walking around her house talking to people, and she's actually one of the most interesting parts of this show. She's more interesting than Andor and any other character, honestly. And to be honest, that's because her scenes are closer to the prequels and to the actual feeling of Star Wars. Most of her scenes are in Coruscant, so I think that's a huge reason. And we know that character, and she's just a great actress. And her dialogue is probably the best dialogue in the season. To be honest, this episode felt like Squid Games. I mean, there was nothing really original about it. It was a worse version of Squid Games, and it just did not need to be an episode. And he's still not out of the prison. This episode should have ended as a filler, and it should have ended the filler. But next episode, we're gonna have to see more of what Andor has to go through in that prison, and I'm just really not interested. I mean, this episode was so boring. You know, something's boring when you're just doing other things while it's on. And with Star Wars, I'm normally not like that. With Tales of the Jedi, I was not like that whatsoever. I was fully focused. And speaking of Tales of the Jedi, now that show's out, it shows the total difference between this show and that show. I mean, Tales of the Jedi is pure Star Wars, has the feeling, has the atmosphere, has the music. But with Andor, it's the total opposite. It's dark, grey, and I don't mean the show's dark, as in like it's brutal or anything like that. It's just grey and dull, and it's boring. It doesn't have the Star Wars feel. There's no aliens. It's probably the worst part of the show. Why is there no aliens? Because the director or the writer didn't want any aliens to be a part of it, because it might be too much hassle. I mean, I don't know, this is so ridiculous. This show is just so mid, honestly. As soon as it starts to pick up, it just gets worse. This episode was so boring and had no meaning, had no importance to the overall plot. I don't even know where the show's going at the moment. It's like we're just watching Andor just live his live his life, honestly. We're just seeing little parts of what Andor's done in his life, and they're really not important. The Empire is just there. Honestly, that's all I've got to say. To be honest, there's not much to say about this episode, like other episodes. This was episode 7 of Andor. It was boring. He's in prison. The Empire's gonna start searching for him, I guess. I actually do like that character who's getting interrogated by the Empire, by the Imperial woman officer. I mean, that guy's somewhat interesting. I'm trying to see where he goes. I'm hoping he'll be a super high-ranking officer in the Empire, or maybe join the rebels, you know. I'm interested to see where he goes. But other than that, yeah, we saw Saw Gerrera. It was nice to see him. When I saw him, all I was thinking was, wow, we could have used him in a more interesting show. Honestly, we could have used him in a more interesting show. But yeah, that's about it. This episode was boring. Let me know what you think down below. But honestly, yeah, this just weren't for me. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion. A lot of people love this show. Me, I do not like this show. And a lot of people I've seen do not like this show as well. So it's very 50-50. But yeah, this show just isn't Star Wars to me. And it's really boring right now. Hopefully it picks up. I mean, this show needs cameos like all the other live action shows that Disney has been releasing. So yeah, that's about it. This is Andor episode 7. What do you think about it? Put it down below. What do you agree or disagree with what I said? And I'll see you on the next one.